Hey, everybody. Welcome to this episode of the B2B Revenue Leadership Podcast. Hey, it's another year, another time to make some more money, and I've got the course for you. Start the conversation, get the meeting will help your team, both business development, sales development, get into those new cold accounts, whether that function is under marketing or sales. I'll help you with that by starting organic, natural conversations, not pitching. Have people open up with you, build up a connection with them, understand your total addressable market, prioritize it, and put in a system that scales, that's predictable, that works the way you want it to work instead of the old school pitch. Believe me, I've sat through so many of these cold calling seminars, courses, books, and I've been doing it for 30 years, and it's evolved. And what I'm doing today is what's working in today's world. It works naturally, and people are just loving it, getting meetings, closing deals, and doing it without the rejection that is typically there in sales. So check it out at b2brevenue.com under the training tab. You can schedule a call with me. We can talk it over. I'll explain how it works and how we can work together on it. You can buy it per student, or I'll customize it for your particular product and team and coach you through that process. Also, if you're a sales leader and you want predictability, you want direction, momentum, and control with your deals, you can sign up for that course as well. Same type of model. A year-long access to it. It's content, community, and coaching, all included at b2brevenue.com. You can get my free ebook there on how companies make product selections. That's all free. Let's get into the interview, but I want to make sure you're checking out my partners. They're in the show notes. This week, it's Pipedrive and CoVideo. Pipedrive is the new CRM. It's been out for 5 years. I've been using it forever. I love that. It's connected up with your email, your calendar, and now they have team capabilities. CoVideo is the video email system. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. It's the way to break into new accounts. It's so much more engaging than text. Check them out. Also, make sure you're checking me out on LinkedIn, Brian G. Burns on LinkedIn. Let's get into the interview. I'll sum it up at the end. Hey, Chris, thanks for joining us today as a way of getting started. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey, Brian. Thanks for having me. So I'm the CEO of Video Fort and the former CMO of Rep Interactive. And over the past 10 years after graduating from the University of California, Davis, we set on a mission to create video for brands. And what started as a couple real estate agents eventually grew into over 180 companies, including Red Bull, Amazon, Boeing, National Institute of Health, and Coldwell Banker, all of the Realogy brands. So it's been quite a journey, but our core mission has always been creating the best possible video content for brands, working directly with them. And you could really consider us a hybrid between an ad agency and a video production company. So that was the mission. We've done modestly well over the past 10 years, and now I'm finally have the book of my dreams in market called Become a Content Brand.
And you're in a pretty hot space with great timing, huh?
Yeah, when we first started our company, YouTube had just become the emerging platform, and we didn't know much about creating like cinematic films, but we all had a great marketing background and we were really good at business development. So we had thought, okay, why aren't brands creating content just for YouTube? Why aren't these companies that are spending millions and millions of dollars on television advertising, why aren't they doing more on digital? Which seems completely asinine today, but back in 2009, 2010, it wasn't the norm yet. People didn't know how to do it. They were just repurposing their broadcast commercials for YouTube and online, and it wasn't really getting much traction. Meanwhile, YouTubers were starting to understand and realize that they could create their own personal brand by just producing video content. And obviously, the growth of YouTube is pretty widespread and well known. But from a brand perspective, there just weren't that many companies taking advantage of it. So definitely right time, right place. But at the same time, what we saw in the film industry and what ad agencies were doing with video production it just didn't seem sustainable to us. You can't have 30, 40 people on set for a single online video. It had to be 3 to 5 people. We just didn't get why there were 80% of the staff was standing around 90% of the time to do one job. Like literally a guy's whole job was to move a light, and we didn't get that.
Yeah.
So we created a system and process that allowed us to basically be the Navy SEALs of video production and travel anywhere within the world within 48 hours. And that was definitely a big part of our success, timing and process.
But it's even so much bigger today than YouTube because, I've been doing a lot with video on LinkedIn. I've seen a lot of people having a lot of success on Instagram.
Oh, yeah.
And it's everywhere.
Yeah, and that's a great point. One of the topics that I mentioned in the book is this omni-channel approach, where let's say you do one shoot, and bloggers and Instagram people are really good at this, but brands still haven't necessarily caught up, where you have one production day, you film 2, 3, 4 hours of content, and then you repurpose that content for every platform. Each platform is going to have a different audience and a different SKU, so the content needs to be representative of that. And what I mean is, something on YouTube can be widescreen. On Instagram, it needs to be either vertical or square. Same thing with Facebook. And there's some strategies and tips that we could talk about on why that is. But in general, it's this thought of it's not a like, oh, I'm just going to create a video for Facebook. That video needs to work for Facebook, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, TikTok. All social media channels, you should be repurposing your content. Even if you only get 1,000, 2,000 views on one of those channels, if you're a sole proprietor or a consultant or something like that, that's still 1,000 more views than you would have had. And by capturing with a minimal amount of work, you're maximizing your total audience and exposure. So it's definitely no longer a like, oh, we're going to create 3 broadcast commercials a year, we're going to put it on TV, and that's it. It's a your content has to get everywhere, and that's an insight that we gathered from starting our stock footage company.
That's it, because every CMO I talk to, their number one hire right now is a videographer for this particular purpose to kind of, I think because people are taking a different approach, more the reality TV approach, where it's document instead of create.
Yeah, and I'll even go a step further. The best possible person that you can hire for a position that is creating content for you internally is a predator. So a producer, editor, director hybrid. There's a lot of them out there. There are not very many really good ones, but it was monumental to our success early on because we were able to send 2 guys out into the middle of the bayou and get amazing content with the CEO of a company. Just alone, 2 guys, a jib, a Steadicam, and 2 cameras, and they'll come back with content that would rival any other ad agency. So that's one of the biggest things, is to make sure you find someone who can not only shoot great video, but they have to be a great editor. They should have some experience in After Effects or other technical elements to add graphics and the polish to your videos. But they're hard to find, and they're in high demand. So that's one of the tactics I have in the book, is to really like, how do you find that person? How do you hire them? What are you looking for? And what are some tactics and traits that they should have?
And why'd you write a book?
Yeah.
It's a lot of work.
Great question. Oh, it's a lot. I mean, I was joking earlier that it took me 2.5 years to write, which is 2 years longer than I thought it was going to take. And that was solely because I wanted it to be as perfect as it possibly could. Obviously, as a perfectionist and someone who is used to creating next level content, the book had to be up there. I didn't want to just get something out there. I didn't want to just get published. I wanted to create something that if someone read and they were entertained by the stories and they learned, as 10% of what I've gathered over the years, I would be so happy. So that was it. I saw that brands that we were working with were hiring their own in-house team already. So there's this trend happening, and that was primarily because our agency and most agencies can't produce the volume of content that you really need in order to make an impact, in order to educate in order to entertain, in order to motivate your customers or your key stakeholders to do what you want. And that could be from recruiting to employee retention. How are you going to create that content that just gets your message out to people? So there's this, increasing demand for content that we necessarily, that high volume, low dollar amount content wasn't part of our business model. At this point, we were focused on creating really high quality hero content, which you absolutely need as well. But for that lower end stuff, the things that you just need to get out every single week, every single day, they were hiring their own in-house team, and some were doing a good job. Others were just, the content that they were creating was poorly representing the brand and poorly representing us. So I set out to create the definitive guide that would increase the quality of content for these brands, that would make them self-sustainable and would hopefully make a business impact, with the ultimate goal of, if someone wants to create high quality content with us, sure, but that's not really the purpose of the book. The book is supposed to be a standalone piece of content that will help train you and educate you on becoming a content brand.
And what really resonates today? Is it comedy? Is it flash?
There's threefold. What we always tried to do was entertain, educate, and motivate someone to, make a transaction, to change their behavior. So it really varies in every single department. If you're B2B, something that's educational is going to work probably more so than just comedy. If you're a B2C brand, comedy always does really well, but it's hard to do comedy. You have to have the right people. Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely, we've had some failures and some successes in the comedy department. And every time that we had a failure is trying to do it on our own, or trying to work with, non-funny people, and or too much client feedback and too many business objectives, where it's like, okay, this whole message is lost. So understanding that if you're creating entertainment content, it can be entertaining, it could be funny, it could be interesting, it could be dynamic, but really having that business goal up front and understanding what your business objectives are going to lead you to, okay, what is the best type of content that will help me, achieve this business objective? It's not going into a meeting, say, we need a viral video. No, like we've had, I can't tell you how many clients or how many prospects that we've talked to that just say, oh, we just want a viral video, it should be funny. And it's like, well, why? Like, what if you get 1 million views on this and those 1 million people are not your target audience and it doesn't give you any sales, versus 10,000 views on something that's, educational, interesting, and dynamic, and you get, a lift in sales because of it? Which one would you rather have? More people, from our perspective, the 10,000 view video that actually works is way more valuable than 1 million hits that, people aren't subscribing, they don't really care, they just see this, funny piece of content and they don't remember who you are.
Is that a big part of your job, is getting them focused on the real outcome that they want?
100%. That should be the sole purpose of any agency. Yeah. It's not always giving the client what they want. Sometimes you need to make hard decisions and understand that what the client wants isn't actually going to help them. But I've worked with a bunch of really good agencies and a ton of, we'll just say, not great agencies who will just go out of their way to please the client as opposed to helping them actually achieve their goals. The reality is if a client has a great lift in sales, if they're able to get more leads, if they're able to achieve whatever that business objective is, they're going to be happy, even if that means that you're not doing what they wanted to do, or you're presenting something that could potentially lose the business, but you're really set on, you have the background data and information that's driving you to, what your results are. So there's a complete strategy that comes with, creating great content that I mentioned in the book, and that we could, I could probably talk until my face turns blue about.
Well, give us maybe an example of like a business-to-business client that you've really helped out, that where video kind of transformed their business.
Yeah. So there's a startup that Video Fort is working with that has a very interesting new product that's going to change the way that surgery centers and hospitals track their patients. So when a patient comes into the office right now, a someone working in the front of house will go and call the surgeon, call the back of house staff and say, oh, hey, so-and-so's here, get the pre-op ready. From there, they would go in, and every single step, someone is picking up the phone and calling or texting or paging various people within the office. That is extremely inefficient. So with the Internet of Things, this company that we're working with has created a product that you put a wristband on a customer and on a patient, and as they go through each step, they are moved seamlessly through a dashboard that everyone is instantly updated and transformed on. This business model is disruptive. It's changing the way that surgery centers are operating. And what we did was we went in and created a single piece of content that was an About Us video, but then also 10 other pieces of content that were just smaller bite-sized portions that could be sent out to CEOs of surgical centers, that could be sent out as different pieces of content for surgeons. And they're a startup that's just getting their funding right now, but from our perspective, creating this type of messaging and this omni-channel approach has already helped them get to the next stage of raising more capital, getting more surgical centers under the books, and going from there.
And why shouldn't people just turn on their iPhone and a selfie stick and share their knowledge?
Yeah, that's a great question. So you can, and if you have zero budget, doing something with
your by
yourself. Yeah. If you don't have the experience or expertise to hire someone and or the budget, and you're just starting out and you want to do it on your own, yes, absolutely. Doing it with an iPhone is a great way, because you're just at least producing some content. If you're not on social media, if you're not out there in the world, if you're not driving traffic and actually paying for exposure, obviously no one's ever going to see you, and you're left with cold outreach, reaching out to friends and family to help you get leads, and then also asking for customer referrals, which are all tried and true methods. But the game has changed, especially from a service provider standpoint, where you have to have content out there that will bring them to you. I'm not sure if you're familiar with HubSpot, but HubSpot is a great inbound software company that their whole premise and their whole reason for being is to help you create content and distribute content and educate and entertain your prospects so that they come to you versus you having to go out and come to them. When you do that, you establish credibility. They are reading your information and they now know you are the expert in this field, and they're much more likely to reach out to you if they're in need. But from an iPhone standpoint, you could create really good iPhone if you have the right setting and the right lighting. Just from some general tips and tactics, don't shoot it with in your office with a light that's coming straight down from the top. Make sure that you're close to a window, that you're side lit, so you're looking parallel to the window. And if you have a selfie stick, that's fine, but you could also do a selfie video. Make sure you're looking into the camera and not your face in the screen. It's a very subtle difference, but it helps a lot. And then the biggest thing is to make sure that you have clean audio. Now, you can purchase a $100 like Zoom microphone. You can find them on Amazon. If you just search for the best audio recorder device, you're going to come up with 1,000 great ones under $100. Having that and syncing that in post-production and or just syncing it directly into your phone. I don't have any apps off the top of my head, but when you have clean audio, that increases the production value tenfold right off the bat. From there, the content that you're producing, the message that you have, just speak from the heart, be authentic. Don't try and sell people. Have them understand the information and get it out as cleanly as possible, but also make sure that message is something that's really going to resonate with your target audience.
And how about length? What length of video are you finding to have the most impact?
It's funny. The premise that we typically give to our clients is 60 to 90 seconds, but I think that has changed greatly, and the reason for that is there's a study by AOL on the state of video that came out in 2018 that was talking about the total amount of time that you have to get someone's attention on a ad is 3 seconds or less. I think it's closer to even a second and a half now. The behavior that millennials and Gen Z have with social media is this almost instantaneous swipe left, tap to the next story. This Instagram stories and Snapchat really changed the way that we consume content. And thus, if you want to get someone's attention, you have to snap them with a hook right in the beginning. Something that's going to grab their attention and say, okay, this is actually worth my time. This is something that could be entertaining. This is something that I really want to learn or know or understand. So you have 3 seconds to get their attention. From that 3 seconds, the video can be as long as it needs to be. It can be 10 minutes long if that message is, moves quickly, that resonates with the audience, that is important, that's pertinent. But I think what happens a lot of times is if you are a key stakeholder at the brand, you think that your content is more important than it actually is. So always have a third party or a trusted person that will tell you the truth on whether or not the content that you're producing is good or not, or what can be cut out. And don't be afraid to just start chopping the fat. After you actually post the content, look at the analytics. How long are people watching it? Where are they dropping off? Don't be afraid to take the video down, re-edit it, cut something out where people are dropping off, and then repurpose it so that they get to the call to action, that they get to the end of the video that drives them to where you want to drive them.
And are you finding that kind of Snapchat ephemeral view of the world is affecting your business?
No, not at all. I think if anything, it's affecting it in a positive way, because when you can create content with that in mind, you can, break the code. You could get people to pay attention to you when other competitors are just creating, bad content that isn't getting their attention. So it's more of just an understanding of how it works and then executing with that in mind. And a great example of that is a good friend of mine's company that we do some work with called Resto Mods. And it's like restored, modified vehicles. Their whole business model is predicated on sweepstakes and entertainment content, primarily for auto enthusiasts. And what we'll do is we'll go and have a shoot with them where we'll create 3-4 hours of content with these awesome cars and reproduce that content and re-edit it at least 100 times during a 3-month period. So one shoot, very minimal budget, 2-man crew, we're able to produce hundreds of videos within 3 months that are being posted on social media. Their conversion rate is extremely low, and that's because every week they're coming out with a new video that's basically a twist on the original video that has more or less the same image. Subscribe to our sweepstakes and you have a chance to win this or $35,000 in cash. That bonus offer is great. People want to be engaged with the car. Their target audience is very honed in. And the marketing element of it is to, just, all right, we're going to get as many different types of video, find out what works, and drive traffic and advertising dollars towards that piece that is the most effective.
So what I hear is that what you provide isn't just great video, it's videos that accomplish what they want.
100%.
Yeah.
So not only what they want, but someone like Restomods would be a B2C company. Their whole goal is to get as many subscribers as possible. So how are we going to do that? We're going to create really awesome content that's shot dynamically and is interesting and entertaining, that is, for lack of a better term, car porn, things that people are just they're hooked on. They're already into it, they're into it, and they have look-like audiences now, and they've gained a large enough following that the content that we're producing is working really well for them.
Great. And what's the name of the book?
The name of the book is Become a Content Brand.
Excellent. And what would people get out of it if they invest the time and money?
Yeah, that's a great question. You're going to learn how to build your own in-house team, finding a predator or an editor if that's what you want, how to work with outstanding professionals. So if you just want to have someone else do it for you, how do you find a really good video production company? How do you find a great video agency? How do you know if they're good or not? How can you trust them? And also, how do you work with them? What's the most efficient way to get them the information that they need that will achieve your business objectives? And then also, how do you learn, how do you create a great video strategy? How do you repurpose content for different social media platforms, and a ton of other great stuff. But that's it.
And is it out now?
It's out now on Amazon and wherever books are sold on Amazon.
And how about people who want to connect with you?
Yeah, you could find me on Instagram at Mr. Content Brand and also at Video Fort. Our YouTube channel has some really great tutorials and free stock footage and all sorts of great things. So at Video Fort and at Mr. Content Brand.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed that interview. Hey, I want to make sure you're checking out b2brevenue.com. That is where you can get a free copy of an ebook that I did. It's a real ebook. It's not a fluff book. It shows and talks about how companies make buying decisions and how you can influence that from both a marketing and a sales standpoint, how to find all the people that are in the decision path and what they need to see, know, and touch and feel before they make a product selection. If your team needs some coaching, some help, some training, some systems, some processes that do work today, because we know what doesn't work, or you know what doesn't work, I'll show you what does work and how to connect and get into pretty much any account. It includes deal coaching and content community, and I can customize it for your particular company. Just go to b2brevenue.com, look under training, schedule a call with me. We can talk it over, or just sign up. You can pay per month or all at once, whichever makes most sense for your budget. Also, I put out videos pretty much daily on LinkedIn and on YouTube. On LinkedIn, it's Brian G. Burns, and on YouTube, it's Brian Burns Sales. Just search for that if you like to consume some video content. And if you see me on LinkedIn, please put a comment and a share and a like on some of the videos. I really appreciate it. I've got a company page for each podcast. This one, the B2B Revenue Leadership Podcast, where I put both content and humor videos out daily. And tell a friend about the podcast. Really appreciate you listening. Check out the show notes for all the partners and the connections you can make there, the coupon codes for the products to evaluate them, see if they're a right match for you. And we'll see you next time.